Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons. So as you probably gathered, this tutorial is on the quite awesome and delay-ridden solo from Machine Gun Kelly's song 27. If you want the tabs, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/JBF Music. This part of the lesson here is where I go through the solo bar by bar, highlight anything you might want to watch out for, some tips and tricks, just for those who really want to get into the finer details of the solo. If you like this format with the full speed demo and the slow ones with a tab and no talking, followed by an explanation, let me know with a like and a comment. These things really help give a huge boost to the channel, and make sure to give subscribe a click and enable all notifications so you get the type of content you want to see in your feed. I don't have access to the masters of the stems for this track, I've just worked them out by ear from the studio version. As far as I can tell, this is a pretty accurate transcription, but any corrections are more than welcome, just leave them in the comments. Okay, in terms of the tone, a fairly low gain sound, probably humbuckers, single coils will be fine, just maybe roll a tad of the tone off. You probably want to be on the bridge pickup, that sounds like it's the best to me. It sounds like they've stuck a delay pedal in front of the amp and gone a bit wild with it. These cheap Behringer delays actually have a fairly close sound. They had a grainy sort of hiss in front of the amp, which to me, anyway, so it sounds like, you know, fairly similar to the aesthetic style on the record. Anyway, this is what I used for the intro demo. I'll leave it off for the rest of this video, the excessive delay. If you want that kind of soaring epic sound, you want to set your delay roughly to these settings. In bar 1 we're starting on the 13th fret. I'm going to use my third finger here, and what we're going to do is play the string once, pull off, hammer on, pull off again, then play this note once more and slide to the 15th fret, down to this 11th with the first finger, and add some vibrato. So you could pick this twice, we're doing pull off, then a slide. It sounds to me like it was a pull off, we're just hitting it once, then the slide, and the vibrato. What we've got next is a bit of a rake into the note, so you'll notice those kind of crossed out notes. What you want to do is come through these strings, but make sure they're muted out with this hand, so there's no real pitch here. Instead of it being notes, we're just getting this kind of percussive scrape sound. What you do is you scrape through that onto this 11th fret on the D. So you can hear, instead of it just being this attack before it. Might take a wee while to get this down, but you basically just want to use the underside of any of these fingers to stop these strings from ringing out. Hammering on, 11th fret on the G there. And for this double stop, what you're doing is bending this note here, this 13th fret up a tone. So we want it to sound like this. And while doing that, you want to keep your third finger stationary on this 14th fret. What I would recommend doing is reinforcing the bend on the G string with your first finger. So you notice here my first finger is on this 12th fret here, and what it's doing is just making life a bit easier for me. So instead of having to bend the string up a tone, with that finger, this first finger can take some of the pressure off. So what you're doing there is bending up, releasing to pitch, and then you probably want to bring this finger off and pull off the 13 to 11 on the G. So we're doing this double stop with the reinforced bend here. Return to pitch, lift up this finger, and then pull off. You can keep this finger on, but it might ring out and be a bit sloppy. Another thing that's worthwhile pointing out here is you want to kind of keep your wrist as straight as possible. I've done a much more in-depth video on this, which I'll link to with a card up there if you want to check that out. But if your fingers are pointing upwards and they look like this, you might find it's quite uncomfortable. You'll notice my fingers are kind of pointing off in this direction, and that's because it's keeping my wrist nice and straight. It means I can kind of really get purchase on that rock move. I say rock move because this is a really kind of standard rock cliche. If you want to learn some more of them, I'll put a lesson with a little eye up there. But we do this move twice. And then the next time what we do is we bend this note, return to pitch, and then rebend it. So I'm just strumming this once. Rather than going, just picking once, back to pitch, bend again. We sustain that for a bar, and then we've got a kind of a variation on that intro lick. What we're doing is hammering these frets, the 11 to the 13th on the D, and 11 to 13 on the G. Now what I do here is use your first finger for the 11th fret, and your second for the 13th, because we're going back to the double stop, so this just sets us up really nicely here. So we can keep this finger on the 14th fret, we can again do the tone bend on this 13th, return Turn it to pitch, go off, down to the 13th on the D. Same move again. And we've got a different double stop bend here. So what we're doing now is bending this 14th fret up a tone. But we're doing that while holding this 11th fret on the E. Play those together. Keeping this 11th fret stationary and bending this one up a tone. So you notice that these notes sound pretty disgusting together. The tension increases and then they reach the same pitch. You get really quite a pleasing bend. We hold that for the bar, and then you'll notice I've put these notes in parentheses, so you don't need to do this. This is really like the icing on the cake type thing. I think it was maybe more of a production trick, maybe done after the fact, done during the solo. But what you can do to get this effect is use your little pickup selector. So say we've got this bend sustained. I've done a whole video on how you can use this before, so you can check that out with the eye up there. But basically, when you want those notes to sound, you kind of push it back down to there, and you can hear yourself. That's what's happening. If you've got a kill switch, you could use that instead. As I say, it's icing on the cake. It's a tiny detail thing, so I get the solo down and then start worrying about that later. Next, what we're doing is a really similar theme. It's the same idea, but we're up an octave higher. So we're hammering this 14 to the 16 on the B, 14 to the 16 on the E. Then we're bending this 16th fret instead of doing a double stop because, well, quite frankly, we've run out of strings. But it's the same idea. We're going to bend it, return it to pitch, bend it again. Once more, return it to pitch, and then pull off to the 14th. Then the 16th fret, you want to add vibrato here. As a side note, whenever you see that squiggly line there, that's what that means, add vibrato. Essentially, when there's a note that's sustained for a while, that vibrato is probably being added. There are whole different types of vibrato that you can do, which I'll link to with a lesson card up there. But we then have this. Onto the final home stretch here, we've got this 14th fret on the E down to the 16th on the B. Again, some vibrato. And you want to watch here because we play the 16th fret again, but it's not till the very last 8th note of the bar. So it would be 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, add. So that and a 4. 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, add. Cool. And then what we're doing in the next bar is sliding down the 16th to the 14th fret, playing this 11th. Down to the 13th on the G, back up to 11th. Then you're hammering on, so we're playing the 11th once, hammering on to the 12th. Then we've got a bend on the 13th fret. Release it to pitch. Now, as a side note, I couldn't totally tell because of the amount of delay on the solo, but he might actually do this bend and then pull off to the 11th fret. It doesn't sound like it's there, but it might be, so if you think it's there, add it in. But we've got this bend. And then you'll probably notice another little X here. So what you want to do is rake through the A string, the D string, sorry. So again, you just want this to be muted out by some sort of flesh or finger. You can try and use a bit of your palm, or you can kind of use this. I've done a lesson on muting tips before, which I'll link to with an eye up there if none of this is making too much sense to you. But yeah, essentially just mute out this note on the D and then do another bend on that 13th fret of the G. And you can hear raking into the note. It has a more attack, more kind of grit than if we just go. Anyway, return that to pitch, pull off to the 11th fret, down to the 13th. Then we get a really cool way to finishing off. We're doing 2 of these 11ths, then down to the 13th fret and the D. And a really nice, big, wide, controlled vibrato there. So there's an outro to this as well where there's lots of ad-libbed solos in it, but by ad-libbed I mean he's improvising it. So the basic theme, if you do want an in-depth lesson on the exact way he plays this, please let me know with the comments. If there's enough kind of comments and likes in this video, I will more than happily do one. But you've got this basic shape here. So if you listen to the kind of the end of the song, the outro of the song, where it's kind of all epic, these are the things he's playing. This little slide here, down to the 10th fret from the 11th, 11 down to the 8 on the D, a hammer on pull off thing going on here from 6 to 8, and then just a 9/8/6, and again some nice vibrato there. Now, he'll improvise around this, so rather than just being, it might be. So there I went from the 10 to the 11 sliding, back to the 10 after, again coming down these. And then this one, instead of being at times might just be or. So you don't have to learn them verbatim, you can do quite a lot Loads of stuff to be had there, some really cool ideas going on. I've tried to keep this one as condensed as possible. If you are interested in the music theory, or as I say, those outro solo bits, then let me know with a comment and I'll see what I can do. But that was the 27 guitar solo. If you've enjoyed this, you'll probably also like my Post Malone's Take What You Want solo lesson up there, or this iconic riff from Eminem's 8 Mile. But yeah, hit subscribe to stay up to date with the channel, leave me a comment, share it with your fellow musicians, and enable notifications by ringing that little bell on the side if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.